everyone. My name is Hyunyoung Ju. I'm from South Korea, and I'm very glad to be here today, this morning with you all. And I do not come here as an active journalist, but I am one of the ones working behind the scenes, setting up those scenes and amplifying the voices that I work with, just to harness the power of the media to do something about climate change, basically. So this morning I would like to share how we are using strategic communications to create and amplify climate stories that could drive real changes on the ground. And I am from an organization called Kihumidi어허브, and we are a part of a global broader network which is called GSC, Global Strategic Communications Council. And basically, Kihumidi어허브 is a not-for-profit organization that is dedicated to addressing climate change. But the way we work is a bit unique in the field, I think, because we are playing a role of bridging the climate work that a range of our partners do to the media, so that the issues can get enough media attention to drive real changes on the ground. And why do we this? Why do we focus on media? And maybe this is just too obvious for many of you here who are working as a journalist, but for us, the media is one of the strongest tools that we can leverage in the fight against climate change, as the coverage reaches both the public and also the decision makers. It shapes public understanding and also serving as a gauge of public interest to decision makers. And also, the media coverage is a very important channel where the decision makers get important questions to reckon. So, it has a lot of potentials to be used. But the thing is, we see a significant gap in how climate organizations leverage the power of media. Because in many cases, they are doing really, really great and important work on the ground, but they do not prioritize media outreach or see it an essential compared to their direct work. So that's where our work comes in. So we are. On one hand, we work very closely with journalists from both international and domestic outlets to keep them informed on climate and energy issues that need attention. And on the other hand, we partner with a range of groups from, of course, civil societies to investors, scientists, researchers, etc., just basically to make their work be more visible and well-placed in the media discourse. And also players are very much diverse in this climate field, as I've just mentioned. So their languages can be very technical or sometimes very passionately niche, which is quite difficult for their messages to be well delivered. So there's a sort of translation is needed to refine the key messages that need to be delivered. And so that's how we work basically. And before going on to the small achievement that I made this year, I'd like to share a bit of my personal journey into this job. So I started my career in journalism, and during my time, I met truly inspiring people, especially on the front lines of social issues, and over time, that really sparked a desire for me to work alongside people like them, and also to make a more direct impact on society beyond, interviewing them and writing some articles. So I quit my job. I left journalism and I freelanced as I was searching for an issue that I could fully commit to. And along the way, I've got some eye-opening encounters that really made me see the urgency and the gravity of the issue of climate change, which ultimately led me here today. Yep. So from here now, I like to share some of the achievement that that this work has brought. So over the last 4 years, basically, and especially this year, I've led communications for Korean climate litigation. And just to give you a brief idea about these litigations, last August, the Constitutional Court of Korea delivered very historic ruling on 4 climate litigation cases, confirming that the current national climate law is unconstitutional because it shifts too much burden on future generation. And that was a major victory for the plaintiffs and also for the climate community. And it has far-reaching implications, not just for Korea's climate policy, but also for other Asian countries like Taiwan or Japan, where like similar litigations are ongoing. And I'm not gonna go deep in the detail because in the afternoon you will have a chance to meet the guy at the center who's in a blue tie, the leading lawyer of the council, Se-jong-yoon. And this was the photo from the very last press conference following the ruling last August. And yeah, so over the last 4 years, we've organized several press conferences and provided backbriefing information to media. We've connected interviews and coordinated diverse groups of plaintiffs and the council just to keep the media informed and sustain the interest from the media. And just to share a bit from that day, it was the very last day, and like on my way to the court, I thought I might get too emotional, and I really did, but in reality, it was just a pure hectic because no one really like knew what the decision would be like, and I and my team prepared like 4 different press releases like a day before, both in Korean and English. And on that day, I was sitting on the floor at the left, intensely like updating the draft with the details from the court. So yeah, over the last. And there was actually the photo that was used in the front page of one of the majors. So if you ever seen any coverage on Korean litigation cases over the last 4 years, then it's likely that you've seen one of our works. And this ruling actually traced 4 years back to this day one, when 19 youth activists filed the very first climate litigation against the government, arguing that the current climate law is just way too low to protect their basic rights in their school uniforms. And from this day on, our team has worked with the plaintiffs and the council just to keep this story alive in the media. So as I've said, we've done a lot of like press conferences, quite a lot of them, with different groups of plaintiffs, and like shared a lot of information with journalists. So that lead to the court ruling this year, we believe. And someone might ask, the coverage is good, sustained media coverage seems to be good, but what's the point of, what's the relations between the media coverage and the court ruling? Because isn't a litigation just a legal thing? But I believe the sustained media coverage played quite a role here, because earlier this year the court merged 4 different climate litigation cases into one and scheduled 2 times a public hearing, which was such a rare move, given that less than 1% of cases ever get a chance to be heard in the court. And like a lot of like domestic the coverage from the domestic media delivered very important critical key questions to judges and also to lawmakers, urging them to reflect the urgency of climate change. And also the coverage from international outlets played a key role in amplifying the impact, because that really shows, sends a very strong signal that the world was watching. And I'd like to share one of the strategies that our team suggested this year to the group of plaintiffs. So we proposed of collecting handwritten letters from everyday citizens, so voices outside of the litigations, to judges. And in less than 2 weeks, we could collect more than 130 letters from, from children to parents and so on, sharing their hopes and fears for a livable future. And that played a very, very critical role in domestic media coverage around that time, because that's the stories from the people, and that really turns the legal technical stuffs into a human story. And with this experience, I also see a potential of the media, not just to inform the public, but to inspire and to mobilize, because I've also collected a few letters from my friends, and since then they've shown more interest in the court ruling and also climate change. So probably this is one of the potential that needs to be more harnessed in the next steps. So this is almost the last of my story. This is the photo from the post-ruling forum that was held last month, and actually that was very first time for me to cross the press line and take a group photo with the plaintiffs and the counsel. And of course we've got a major ruling from the court, but this isn't the end of the story, because based on the ruling, the government is obliged to enhance its climate policy in 1.5 years, and probably it's going to be more challenging to, get media attention on the following procedure than the decision per se. But still, reflecting on my experiences working with the groups and at this organization, I think leveraging the media always opens up a space for for the next climate action, whether it's small or big. And I feel really fortunate to be here working with a group of an extended group of colleagues dedicated to the same cause, working together just to accelerate some changes seems to be needed here on the ground. That's the end of my story, and thanks so much for listening and having me today.